there was a brother by the name of James Byrd Jr. who basically got decapitated um, in a city called Jasper, Texas,
Got
by
dismembered.
dismembered. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
there wasn't just his head; his whole body
Yeah.
started getting
yeah,
ripped apart. Uh,
disintegrated.
so from that standpoint, the Klan actually drug 3 members of the Klan got caught anyway and drug him behind his vehicle until his body, came apart. And we received information about this, and people from the community, black people in the community, reached out to the Black Panther, the new Black Panther Party, to come out there and assist them because of the blatant racist attacks that was happening with the Klan. And to tell you how deep this was, you literally had situation where the leadership of the local police department were being ran by the Klan. You were talking about a community that was still dealing with outright segregation, and we're talking um, what 1993, 94? No, I'm sorry, 96, 1996, and you still are dealing with segregation and rate and blatant racism and Klan actively walking around in hoods.
And the
So
Klan, and just to emphasize that the police department is being run by Klan members openly.
openly,
You got them now. It's like, yeah, he's probably Klan, maybe dig some dirt up on. No, 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 no. Hi, I'm the sheriff, and I'm a Klansman on the weekends. So just to kind of emphasize, this was that level stuff.
In the
So go ahead,
90s.
bro.
In the 90s. Yeah.
In the 90s.
dang
So
it.
go ahead, bro.
So from that standpoint, when the community reached out to us, and a lot of people obviously don't know this because this is not something that was advertised through the media, but we actually did a few maneuvers into Jasper, announcing ourselves and making a national move to do an intel and finding out the situation. And that's when we discovered all this was legit and was actually going on. As a result of that, the Klan actually in terms of trying to boast about the situation of actually killing a black man and getting away with it, because this is what was happening at the time. Even though you had 3 people that were getting ready to be prosecuted, the Klan was just moving and doing their thing, and they wanted to celebrate basically the martyrism of that operation. So they had planned a march throughout the black community to basically boast about the operation and to continue to instill fear and basically let it be known that, look, y'all better stay in y'all place. And we letting y'all know that we're willing to die for what we believe in. That made it back
We're
to
gonna
us.
kill you for what we believe in.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you made martyrs of 3 men. We okay with that. That was the mentality. But you stay in your place. So from that standpoint, it made it back to us on that note. And so we had planned a maneuver to go down and basically corner off and quarantine the black community to prevent the Klan from coming inside armed. We actually even made a call to the police department, letting them know that, look, this is what's going on. You need to put an end to it, or we will be down there. We talked to the chief of police at the time, and it was myself, Aaron Michaels, David Foreman, a few of the national leadership, or it wasn't even national leadership at the time. It was still local, but we worked with people nationally. Khalid Muhammad was there, but we had a phone conference, and on that phone conference, the chief of police flat out told us, look, if y'all enter our city, we are going to arrest y'all.
Yeah.
He said, whether you break any laws or not, you will be arrested if you come down here and mess with what we got going on. That came straight out of his mouth, knowing that the whole point is we put a call out letting him know that the Klan can't be marching through the black community. And we received a call, and we're going to come down there and we're going to deal with that. He flat out just told us that he's going to arrest us. It had nothing to do with us breaking the law. We will be arrested and detained for even stepping foot in his city.
Oh, wow.
We flat out told him, well, get ready to arrest us because we coming. And so that was the mentality. So we organized a maneuver to go down there. And Khalid Muhammad at the time, working through the new Black Panther Party, was very eccentric in being able to put the word out and helping us galvanize members and soldiers to go down there. So as we planned for this, mind you, we're still dealing with FBI operations, in terms of how they do everything and do surveillance. So this is when it really started hitting home with me, because it wasn't until the Jasper incident that I actually started seeing FBI follow me, and even had people sneak into my backyard. And at that point, I knew they was planting some devices or doing something, because where I live, there was no reason for white folks to be in my backyard, especially on an acre of land with a fence. So these are the kind of things that was happening, and they was as bold as enough as to just park in front of my house, and they parked in front of several key leadership houses and just monitor us, drive, follow us around wherever we go, and they basically was just trying to make sure that they could either, one, intimidate us. Number two, we didn't let it be known exactly how we were going to go about doing the tactical maneuver. So
Yeah.
they was trying to do the best they could to gather information
Yeah.
on the situation. So at that point, that's when we started seeing how this was going to play out. As a result of that, also what happened is we recognized the fact that the FBI was going to make sure that there wasn't a quote unquote race war or race riot between us and the Klan, because we meant business, and as far as we know, the Klan meant business. So we had every intent on going down there with our weapons and defending the black community, making sure that they didn't march through it. They had every intent on going down there, on being down there and doing their march through the black community. FBI actually ended up seizing jurisdiction of Jasper and holding the local police department at bay. This is how crazy it got. It got to the point to where they took jurisdiction over the local police department, called in the state troopers and federal agents, and they basically just snuffed the local operations and prevented them from basically openly wearing their hoods and trying to go into the black community. So they barricaded off the black community, didn't let the Klan go into the black community, and as a result, the Klan decided to hold a rally in downtown Jasper and attempt to do the same thing. So we were in a black community, they were downtown, and when we actually went into the city on this first maneuver, we went through the black community, assured them, that hey, if we work together as a people, they can't operate like this, and basically from that standpoint, the idea was that we help to empower the people and work toward trying to get rid of the fear that they had. And this was crazy because to us, coming out of Dallas, Texas, we obviously dealt with a lot of racism, but this is my first time ever personally seeing black folks just straight out fear and scared of white people. And the people of that city was just literally the
Yeah.
black community. Most of them was just scared. I mean, and one of the crazy things that happened about this, and this is one of the things that's little known about that scenario, is that our intel also had reported that Jesse Jackson also had knew about us going down in the community and had planned an alternate march with the black people of the community, and had put out a memo telling the people of Jasper the best way and the best practice for y'all to be able to empower yourselves and make sure no one's out at night and y'all walking in pairs in the community. So we felt like a lot of the message that he had put out basically just bought into the idea that you're going to be attacked and you just need to accept the fact that white folks are going to continue to terrorize your city. We didn't like that. We was completely against the message and information he was putting out, because he was basically making it sound like y'all should just live with the fact that y'all are going to be attacked, live with the fact that y'all are going to be terrorized, live with the fact that y'all are going to be brutalized, and just, hey, deal with it. No, our attitude was you need to be defiant, you need to stand up for yourselves. Y'all are a country town. Country towns are like in Texas is like the main places where you carry your shotguns on the back of your
Absolutely.
truck, and
Absolutely.
it don't make sense. And these are the areas where I used to go down and hunt when I was a little kid. So when I was brought up, my dad brought me up on hunting and fishing. We would go down to East Texas and hunt, and this is where I would see people with their rifles and shotguns who could shoot like shoot as good as anybody that was in the military or any police officer crack shots, but obviously for shooting deer. But the point I'm getting at is that Black people were able to defend themselves, but they didn't look at it from that perspective. So we brought a new perspective in terms of what a weapon means. It's not just hunting and fishing, it's to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And so we countered the message that was being put out by Jackson because we didn't want our people to be instilled with fear, and we didn't want our people to basically feel like they couldn't go out at night. That we just thought that was crazy. You know, come 9 p.m., he said, "Don't go out at night if you're Black."
You know
what kind of world, kind of mess is that?
What's crazy? I was talking with a real good friend of mine yesterday, and I brought up Jasper, and he was like, "Oh, that's a sundown," and I was just like,
"Yeah."
He was like, "You know what I was like, "I got no idea what a sundown is," and he was like, "Yeah, that's one of the towns. It's like that. It's just like, man, Black people can't be out at night because they'll get murdered and it'll get covered up."
Yep.
And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a term? Like, that's no. Like,
oh yeah. And just to give you an idea, that's not a 1990s thing. There's a city out here in Florida that Warren I used to go to play with the alligators and whatnot, and it's called Christmas, Florida. Ironic, right? Christmas, Florida. And when I told some folks at the job, a few days later after my first couple of times going out there, I told them, yeah, we went to Christmas, Florida, and blah blah, and they were like, oh. That's cool, but just make sure you out of there before the sun goes down, before it gets dark out there. You don't want to be out there. And sure enough, when you make a turn off the main highway into the town, there's a big Christmas tree that you're in Christmas, Florida. And a couple of country miles down, every other house has a rebel flag. Yep. So yeah, absolutely. That's still 2020. Yeah, it's still absolutely a thing.
And I want to add this to the Jasper story. I think this is important, especially for upcoming and growing revolutionaries. As it was said earlier, that was our first, especially for me and Brother E, that was one of our first field maneuvers. So, we was young. I was younger than him, and we was hyped. We thought we were supposed to go to Jasper. It was going to be all out gunplay. We were supposed to die. We were supposed to die for the cause. That's what we thought. There's nowhere in the world that guys out of the city is supposed to march through this country town with SKSs and AKs and shotguns, and you got all this police enforcement out there, and we're not going to get murdered.
And it's all on TV. Yeah. International.
Yeah, that was our whole thinking. And while we thinking this, brother David Foreman, he's older, he's more seasoned, and he would just lean back and he was watching us, and he was, smirking, smiling. And, I would find out later why he was smiling. But he was smiling at us and all this talk we were doing about how we feel to go die. And then we marched into Jasper, and the sheriff made his little threats, and he couldn't uphold any of them. And we marched through Jasper, and they moved. I'm talking about everybody moved completely out of the way as we moved through Jasper and did what we needed to do in Jasper. And then we came back from Jasper, and we had a meeting after. We had a debriefing after we got back from Jasper. And I remember us sitting in the headquarters. I think I was like 22 years old, and we was all talking, and David Foreman would just lean back, listen, and he said, we were kind of a little disappointed that we didn't die. Especially E, but E was disappointed. And then Brother David Foreman leaned back, and the reason I bring this up, because this is a lesson, and this is a lesson that informed how I operated while I was in prison, that gave me the understanding of how to organize, and gave me the understanding of how to sometimes resist oppression in prison. Because David Foreman leaned back in his chair, and he said, y'all thought y'all were gonna die? He said, y'all thought we got y'all together and sent y'all into Jasper because we were sending y'all to die? He said, we wasn't sending y'all to die. We knew y'all wasn't going to die. He said, we've sent y'all there to learn one major lesson. And we was, sitting there listening, and we were like, what was that? He said, we needed y'all to go down there and recognize that when y'all working together, that y'all's, excuse my language, you know, I don't curse usually, but there's only one way for me to express how he said this. He said, we wanted y'all to realize y'all are some bad motherfuckers. That's what he told us. And he said, and the point was, and the whole point was, when you come together under a righteous cause with an understanding of the law and operating within your rights, that you cannot be touched. He wanted us to grasp that.
Mm.
And I would use that in prison at time when they would abuse some brothers, at time when they were 100% on the wrong side of the law. I would stand and I would have other inmates stand with me, and they would always back down the same way they did in Jasper.
Wow.
At the entirety of the prison with them, they would back down every single time. One time, I'll give you an quick example. The one time a sergeant came in and they were supposed to jump on his brother unprovokedly because he was standing up watching television. You can't stand up in the day room. He was standing up and they came in, snatched the brother, pulled him outside, slammed him against the glass. The brother had to look on his face like a sad dog, like, please, somebody help me. And I stood up and brother asked me, said, what you supposed to do? I said, I don't know. I'm probably supposed to get myself in trouble though, but I can't just sit back and watch the brother get done like this. And so when I went to the glass and I beat on the glass, and the sergeant, he looked through the glass at me, said, go sit down before I get you. And I told him, you ain't, he said, no, he said, go sit down before I play with your life. That's what he told me. And I said, you can't play with my life. My life done been played with already. I'm sitting in prison doing 2 counts of 20s and 2 counts of 10s. I don't have a life. You can't play with my life. And when I said this, and he opened the door to try to make an example out of me, all the brothers stood up in the day room and they rushed the door and he slammed the door back. He closed it back. And they called a lieutenant down there. And as I talked to the lieutenant with all the brothers and making a circle around the lieutenant asked us, what do we need to do in order for y'all to back down? And I told him it's simple. I don't want it to, we're not trying to take over your prison.
Yeah.
Let your brother go and check your sergeant. And he did just that. And that courage to do that, or that understanding that we had that type of power, I learned that during that situation in Jasper. I learned that then because we had Texas Rangers, we had the local Jasper Police Department, we had the National Guard, we had all of this. We had a helicopter following us everywhere we went. Wow. And we was just some guys who read some books and grabbed a gun and put on some black and marched into the city, and there was nothing they could do with us. And that is not only is it informing, but it's empowering when you understand the power of knowledge. And I just wanted to add that to that Jasper background.
And the weapons were loaded.
Oh yeah, and they was loaded. That's another thing. That's another question I had to field for 17 years while I was in prison, because they put out that false information.
Yeah.
The sheriff, wasn't his name Billy Rawls?
I don't even remember his name, but it wasn't even just the sheriff, but it was the I want to say that went on the, what is you call the news wire, where they just put out.
Everybody said it.
Yeah.
UPI.
And the brothers would ask me in prison, why did y'all march down there with no bullets in your gun? And
right.
I'd have to give them education on propaganda, and I could assure them that the guns were loaded, because at the time, as Brother E said, I was just a soldier, and I was one of the guys that loaded a lot of them and cleaned a lot of them.
Yeah.
That was my job, while the big heads like War was in their meeting. I was cleaning guns and loading guns.
One quick moment where we almost at the end, but I do want to bring up some logistics about Jasper that wasn't known by a lot of the membership, as well as Psych and E. One of the intel informations that we had received was that the Klan, some of them were going to secretly be hiding throughout the route in the Black community, because mind you, we're in the country, so there's areas where it's real thickets. So we had a few members of our delegation that had actually, along the streets that we was one of the main roads where the body was dragged that we was marching on, that road was real heavily wooded on both sides of the road. So we had a couple of our members who actually had to veer off into the woods and march in unison with us to make sure that the tree lines were actually didn't have snipers, because we had received information that they was going to have some snipers out in the woods. And again, going back to the whole mentality about the country is when I used to go deer hunting, you know, that was the thing. You are able to go out and you put something through a scope. So we had to have some members that actually basically check the trails and check the woods as we was marching to make sure that we wasn't actually being attacked. And so we did put out the mentality to the membership, you know, the leadership. We did tell the members down, the members in the community that look, you just something may happen. You do need to go into this knowing that you may not come back. So the threat, the I wouldn't even call it a threat, the guarantee that this is a real deal situation was real. But at the same time, our intent was, and it was and it was a strategy, and it's always been used, you know, to for the benefit is that the media and as well as the FBI doing their job because they don't want a race riot, right? So knowing that the FBI did not want, and you had an international media that came down to Jasper. So the FBI didn't want Jasper to be a showdown to where you saw Klan members and black folks who was just basically trying to defend the community have a bloodbath. So the FBI was doing it, hoping that the FBI do their job, and knowing that the media was there to film the situation. That is what we use to work in our favor to make sure that everything would stay safe. But we also realize that you have your lone wolves. We also realize that you do have Klan members that are crazy, and you do have people that want a race war. To this day, there's a white supremacist want a race war. So from that standpoint, we had to make sure certain members were armed, and we strategically created a military pattern where we had shot groups, where you had a shotgun up front, you had a assault rifle team that was behind, and then we even had some people that had handguns to protect the inner circle of the march. So there was a lot of tactical logistics that we had in place. Go ahead, Brother Sight.
Just an add on, and people like me, because I had convictions, who wasn't allowed to carry weapons in the public, or one of them wouldn't allow me to carry a weapon. I was walking next to E, who had an extra one on his back.
Yeah,
Always looking out for my brother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And mind you, this was the first trip to Jasper. So I don't know, I know we're short on, we're down to the last minute. So maybe next time we start off with the second trip to Jasper.
Right.
Like I said, this was the first one. There's a round two.